The Department of State has recently announced that it has revoked over 175,000 visas since President Trump took office. Now, let's explore this a little bit further. One thing that I want to point out initially, on average in 2025, the pace of visa revocations was at roughly 8,000 revocations per month over the course of the year, on average. That pace has increased in 2026 to roughly 10,000 revocations per month on average. Again, that's just one point that I want to highlight in terms of the growth of the revocations year over year. And again, that's as of August 10th when the Department of State made this announcement. So what is triggering these visa revocations? Well, the Department of State has stated the following grounds as some of the reasons why these visas have been revoked: visa violations, criminal activity, calls for violence against U.S. citizens, fraud, abuse of the immigration system, and national security concerns. According to the Department of State, the majority of these revocations came from what it calls law enforcement encounters. And among these various law enforcement encounters, it's citing to assault, DUI, theft, and drug offenses as the leading causes. So I want you to pay particular attention to the language that's being used here. Law enforcement encounters. It's not saying criminal convictions, it's saying encounters. What does that mean? That means in many cases, a visa is ultimately getting revoked, and the triggering of that visa revocation is coming from a law enforcement encounter, for example, such as an arrest for something like a DUI. And you might be wondering, how is that happening? Why is that happening? Well, the reason is due to continuous visa vetting. When somebody's applying for a visa, they may think that, okay, they're going to go in and apply for the visa, and at the time that they're applying for the visa, the Department of State reviews their background, any criminal record, and things that may make them ineligible for the visa. And that is true at the time of the application. However, there is continuous visa vetting. The State Department is now monitoring visa holders on an ongoing basis, cross-referencing law enforcement databases and increasingly reviewing visa holders' online presence, online activity, and social media presence. So here's the practical takeaway. A DUI arrest, even without a conviction, has become one of the most common triggers for a visa revocation. These various law enforcement encounters, again, not necessarily resulting ultimately in a conviction, have become one of the greatest triggers for these visa revocations. So one very practical thing to derive from this is that having an encounter with law enforcement is not some sort of an insignificant thing as it pertains to somebody's visa holder status in the United States. Again, this is just general information, but visa holders should understand that law enforcement encounters are increasingly becoming one of the greatest triggers for visa revocations. And so if somebody has some sort of an encounter with law enforcement, it should be treated with the seriousness that it warrants from an immigration standpoint as well as from a criminal standpoint. Again, just some helpful pointers, some helpful information to be aware of. I hope you got some great value from this video. If you know anybody that can benefit from this information, please feel free to share this video with them. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.